promised, we have our last panel. It is the fashion and textile panel. And they are going to be speaking on the theme, strengthening Africa's textile industry from cotton to couture. And the first person that we're going to bring up is Ozinna Anumudu. She is the founder of TSC Agency, Nigeria. She is also going to be the anchor. I need all of you to pay attention to the outfits of the people who are on this panel. They are speaking without speaking. So she is the founder of TSC Agency, Nigeria, spearheads the communication agency, providing tailored services for brands with notable portfolios including GT Bank, Alpha Sports, Arise Fashion Week, and Honeywell Flour Mills, among others. She also serves as the lead curator for Ozinna.com, showcasing her keen appreciation for Nigerian fashion brands. Ozinna seamlessly merges branding and fashion in her diverse experiences. Fueled by her innate fashion insights and a passion for self-expression, Ozinna explores identities through timeless and trend-setting pieces that reflect a rich blend of heritage and adventure. You are so welcome. And then our second speaker is Mr. Mai Atafo. He is the founder of Atafo. He is a leading figure in African fashion, celebrated for his impeccable tailoring and modern interpretations of heritage style. Transitioning from a successful corporate career with British American Tobacco and Diageo, Mai refined his craft at Savile Row and the Institut de Moda Burgo in Milan. His designs, recognized for their sophistication, have graced prestigious venues like the Victoria and Albert Museum and the Brooklyn Museum. Known for innovation, he created an 800-plus front row experience at his Spring-Summer 2024 show in Lagos. His work embodies Africa's cultural renaissance, guided by his mantra, master the rules of fashion like a lawyer and break them like an artist. That's powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, let's celebrate Mr. Mai Atafo. Then we also have Sandrah Tubobereni. She is a creative director at TUBO. She is the brilliant mind behind the renowned TUBO brand. As she is fondly called, is renowned for her unique fashion aesthetic, a true trailblazer in the industry. She seamlessly fuses her Nigerian heritage with a daring imagination to create designs that empower women. But her influence goes far beyond fashion. As a Port Harcourt-born designer and MBA graduate from Coventry University with a distinction in global financial services, she combines creativity with sharp business acumen. In addition to her passion for fashion, she has a zeal for impact, entrepreneurship, and empowerment among youth through the Impact Day with TUBO initiative, where she equips entrepreneurs with the knowledge and resources to grow their businesses and contribute to a thriving Nigerian economy. We heard from her a while ago. Thank you so much for being here. And then we would have one lady who will be joining us virtually. Her name is Getaneh, and she's the founder and creative director of African Mosaique. She's the founder and creative soul of African Mosaique. Her vision is focused on three elements: sourcing, manufacturing, and developing talent in Africa. A fashion cultural enthusiast, humanitarian, and acclaimed former international model. From her base in Paris and New York City, her modeling career spanned close to 10 years. Getaneh is welcome. I don't know if she's live yet. Production team, kindly indicate when she's live. Thank you. The next person we'll be calling up is Florentina Agu, who is the founder and creative director of Hetumba. She's the creative force behind Hetumba, a sustainable fashion brand celebrated for its vibrant African-inspired designs. Her fashion journey began at 13, blending sewing skills with creative academic techniques. In 2020, she founded Hetumba to fill a gap in African-inspired fashion, naming it to honor both women and African heritage. Drawing inspiration from her grandmother's deep knowledge of textiles, Florentina is committed to preserving Nigerian weaving techniques, ensuring fair compensation for artisans, and revitalizing this traditional craft. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Florentina Agu. Is she here? Okay, I think she'll be joining us later, hopefully. And then finally, last but not the least, we have Mr. Winston Udeagha, who is the founder and creative director of Winston Leather, now Nigeria's leading luxury leather brand. He refined his craft in Italy before joining his family's business, God's Little Tannery, a supplier to global brands like Ralph Lauren and Louis Vuitton. In 2019, Winston launched Winston Leather, turning Africa's finest raw materials into world-class leather goods. The brand has gained global recognition, featured in Vogue Business, CNN, and BBC, and showcased at New York Fashion Week 2023. With outlets in Nigeria and stockists in the USA, UK, and South Africa, Winston Leather exports to 14 countries and is one of Africa's fastest growing luxury brands. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Winston Udeagha.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you for, powering through the day and waiting for our panel, especially at my table over there. Appreciate you guys. Hi, my name is Ozinna Anumudu, and with me here are Tubobereni and Winston.
Tubobereni.
Isn't that what I said?
You said Tubobereni.
That's not what I said. And Mai will be joining us shortly as well. These are three powerhouses in the fashion industry. I'm very grateful for the introductions that were done because I wouldn't have been able to describe you guys so well, even though I have a personal relationship with all three of you. My first question will go to you, Winston. I'm putting you on the spot. In your industry, or our industry, but you're specifically in leather, right? What are the challenges you experience in your value chain?
So, hi guys, thanks for having me here. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I guess there's multiple challenges across the value chain, right? One of the most obvious ones is the fact that a lot of Nigerian raw material is exported in crude form for pennies on the dollar. So there is no value chain in some cases, Nigeria exports crude oil, we import petroleum, we export cocoa, we import chocolates, we export leather, we import shoes and bags. And so there needs to be more policies that favor production. So I'll give you an example. My family have been exporting for over 30 years. When you export leather, there's no tax. But if you take that leather and you make shoes and bags in Nigeria, then you're taxed to do that. So that gives you an incentive to export more than actually create value. So I guess we could do more to add value here in Nigeria. And also government policy can also help a lot with that.
Thank you for your answer. So I was just prompted that Anna, you're here with us. Hi, Anna. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. Warm greetings from my Ethiopia. I'm very happy to join you. Thank you for having me. Sorry I had to do everything
Great. And I have a question for you. It's the same question. What are the challenges you face in the value chain at the moment?
Well, I think to add to what was already said, yes, there are challenges and they continue to be challenges. We have difficulty accessing good raw materials because we do have great cotton, for example, in Ethiopia, but the best cotton is exported, so what is left is often premium quality cotton that we can use to work for our textile and for our design. And there's also for designers who are starting off, there's challenges by not having access to funding, the quality sometimes of our schools, our design schools as well. Market linkages are also not in place enough for designers to be able, especially for startups, to be able to launch their businesses. I run a fashion incubator, so I work a lot with young designers, emerging designers, startups as well, and we see that these challenges are not only here in Ethiopia, but across Africa, and I believe that we being able to address some of these pain points and really help designers to kickstart their design, their collections, because for some of us who are a bit more established, we have better networks, so we can find ways to source good quality products. But when you are starting off in your original company, starting out your design business, it's so important to have these basic raw materials available in good quality so that it can make them competitive internationally.
Thank you for that answer. And my next question is for you, Sandrah. If you follow her on Instagram, you'd see that she travels the world a lot. You're always sourcing fabrics and, working to get the best for your clients. Now, my question is, in terms of the African textile industry, what better support can be given to fashion designers, especially in terms of, fabric availability and innovation?
Okay, thank you so much. I think I'll just even first of all, just a little bit of a definition. So everything we're speaking about today is centered around the value chain. Now, a chain is pretty much like pieces of metals or pieces of blocks that are put together end to end or in a cycle to be able to give, either give security or a finished product, right? Mm-hmm. A value chain is pretty much the sequence of events that a business or an industry puts together to be able to provide value. In that industry, there are individual businesses that have differentiated themselves and operate with different processes to be able to give the right value to customers. Now, this can span from infrastructure, technology, sourcing raw materials, which is procurement, down to human resources, and then the service delivery itself, right? Now, if I speak about the Nigerian industry in particular, for me, I find that apart from finance, when we put finance aside, you have, first of all, an educational crisis. I say that to say that to be able to deliver products or to be able to deliver quality services, there are human beings that you need to be able to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. The guy who spoke here from the government spoke about trainings and all of those kind of things that they do, but every time the government says that they're doing some sort of skill acquisition program that has to do with fashion, what they really do is put them somewhere, train them for 3 months, and all they're pretty much making there is pillowcases and stuff. So you hire people that are supposed to be doing different types of things in your business, and they almost do not know exactly what it is that you're doing, and you're constantly retraining over and over again, right? And that's even for the people who work factory level. So that's even just production when it comes to the value chain. When it comes to service delivery, we can't even go there. So you hire people to even do things as basic as customer service. They can't communicate very properly, right? And then you also have customers on the other end expecting a certain level of service, whether you're working in retail, whether you're working in luxury, or whether you're working in couture, they expect a certain level, right? So you find that the entrepreneurs or the fashion entrepreneurs are constantly spending resources that they could have deployed to other things, training, retraining, and it's almost like you're trying to multiply yourselves into different aspects of this value chain, and you're not necessarily scaling, right? So you have that problem. Then we also have the problem with infrastructure and technology. You spoke very well about me traveling and sourcing. A lot of the things that I travel to go and source can actually be done here. So take, for example, one of my basic aesthetics would be like the pleats. You'd never actually know that for you to actually make a pleat, it means that you have to cook up fabric for a couple of days, for like 3 months, or it really depends on the style. And I don't know that there's anybody or anywhere in Nigeria that actually owns that particular machine. To be able to buy that machine, first of all, is expensive, and then it also takes up space. When I'm trying to rent a property, I'm thinking about how much each square meter is going to provide for me in terms of like the return of my capital invested, right? I'm not going to just carry that machine and just put it. So there's so many things. There's also, when it comes to the supply, so transferring the garment down to the customers, there's a lot that can also be done there. The challenges that we also have, apart from just having a store, when you travel to like New York or wherever, they're like designated places that have been set aside for fashion itself. That's why you have the places like the Fifth Avenue. You have Old Bond Street. It's not a coincidence that these fashion shops or these fashion entrepreneurs just decided to rent their stores beside each other. There was proper town planning that went in by the government to be able to align all of these businesses in a place where their customers come and meet all of them at the same place. So those are some of the things that you just find like across the value chain. It's almost like we're really never, ever going to just hit the mark.
Sorry, just to go off of that, do we have anything like that here in Lagos? I was just trying to think of an area.
There's really nothing.
Mai.
It's really much us. It's really a few
there is
people.
Lagos Island. That kind of counts for like a fashion district.
Well, it's neither here nor there, because that's pretty much a raw material market as opposed
not
to
finished
a
goods.
final
Who sell like
product
finished
market.
products and like factories that produce and manufacture, and there's a whole industry. It's not quite as palatable as like obviously it is in New York, but it's existing.
So if I translate that to your business, what you're pretty much saying is Winston Leather that supplies to, let's say, some of your primary customers, as you've already mentioned in your profile, are like the Louis Vuittons and co. You're not going to see Louis Vuitton standing right there in Spitalfield Market trying to sell Louis Vuitton. That's exactly what I'm talking about. There's town planning that goes into literally segmenting the industry on behalf of the people who then come into the industry. So you're not particularly suffering to be able to transfer your final products. There's a market for everybody, right? So all of these things really are not things that are within our control. So they tend to be challenges that sort of slow down the industry.
Yeah. Hello, Mai. This is what I always say when I see Mai. Mai, oh my. You're looking. So, Mai, I have a question for you. Thank you for joining us. With your brand, especially with, the international experience, but you also work with an African brand, African clientele, rather. How do you, figure out your craftsmanship to appealing to both markets? I know during your fashion show over the weekend, I spotted a friend wearing, I think she called it the trad suit. It was basically a blend.
Tradsido.
A
Tradsido.
Okay, I know I saw a word and I was like, oh, that's so
Tradsido.
Mai. You came up with that. So how is it that you've been able to serve this market while still appealing to both? And how are you able to source textiles for both and still, maintaining that brand standard?
I think the first thing when it comes to what we do at Atafo is literally quality and craftsmanship for us. So if I can't get it here, I'll get it overseas. I won't try. It almost goes to what, let me call her Sandrah was saying. Very, very odd for me to say that. But it's like people use the African thing as a good platform for storytelling. But in reality, it's only good for the story, but not even good for your customer.
Oh, wow.
Right? So I would go where I have good quality fabric and get the fabric. I would go where I can import or get great craftsmanship to crack. I think people deserve really good clothing.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit embarrassing when we give people things that are not done well and you back it up with an African story. That's BS, if you ask me that. So first of all, I think of clothing that people want to wear and how to provide to them the highest quality, the highest craftsmanship, okay? And I'll do anything to get that done. That's number one. Then number two, I never look at myself because I am here in Africa. then I have to use what is locally available to me to say the story I want to say, right? Not every musician decides to use the talking drum in their instrumentation. Doesn't make them less African. So I make suits doesn't make me less of an African designer, right? It is what I want to do, what I like to do. There's no support for me. If someone told me, we give you a budget of 100 million naira every year if you meet only Agbada, okay, let's have that conversation. Do you get what I mean? There's no payment for you pushing the African culture or narrative for it. And people will say, oh, you are supposed to be a custodian. No, I'm supposed to feed my family first. Fundamentally, that's what I'm supposed to do. So on the one hand, we make European outfits, but we make them to the highest and the best quality that even the Europeans will see it and go like, wow, I want that. That's number one. Number two, we try to do something that is a hybrid of Africa and European things and things we do. So like you said, we'll call that thing a trad-sido because it's a traditional outfit with a tuxedo beep. So it's called a trad-sido. And what we have done with that, we have used textured fabric on top of it, and we've made this thing that looks like a traditional outfit, but the buttons are all the way down. We make it from both male and female. Then now, we now bead the beep, okay, which is a craft that we do quite well here. And that gives it a little bit of an African flair. We've moved it to a trad suit. People now wear it for the tradition. I think that's my most copied design in the world. Because it comes with the beaded cap too and everything, you know. So for me, it's not a conscious effort to be African, but a conscious effort to bring something new or novel to the fashion space. So if I get the pinch and that happens, it does happen. If it doesn't happen, I have to just sell my craft the way it is. So going on from that, just quickly want to say this before I go, because I realize there's always an issue when it comes to value chain, that people do not appreciate craftsmen in Nigeria at all, and we're a key part of the value chain. So you import the fabric from the UK or from Milan. It's good quality, it's acceptable. The thread, the appliques are from India and go, it's great, right? Once a Nigerian touches it, and Nigerian believes that the value of the outcome should be cheap. But if someone foreign touches the same thing, the value should go up. So does it mean that we as Africans, when we craft with everything imported, does that mean we devalue things? Because the same person will go overseas and see the same thing and is ready to pay a premium for it. But once it has a Nigerian name in front of it, all of a sudden, it's seen to be, why are you selling it for that price? Why can't you sell it for this price? And I'm like, it's the value I give you. I make the same thing for you and your best man. Exact same thing, but your best man should be cheaper because he's the best man. That's not how the clothes were made. I won't bend my hand slightly left for a wrong stitch because I want to make your best man's suit less well tailored. You know, so there's a lot in terms of the value chain starting from the base to where we are going to, that when we as designers do things that are impeccable, we are literally not just making clothes, we are actually creating miracles every day because we do not have the machine, we do not have the expertise, we have nothing, and we make this ridiculously amazing thing, right? If that's not magic, it has to be juju. I don't know.
This goes to ask my next question. I was reading This Textile, I think last weekend, right? And they wrote an article and they were basically saying how Nigerian clothing is now overpriced. So you have Nigerian designers selling clothes in dollars, you have them selling at $1,000, $500, $700, and I feel like, you know, Tubo is already holding her mic. She's ready. No, because in as much as I understand where you're coming from and you're the designers, I'm a retailer, right? So this is what I hear every day, right? So what I'm asking now, and I'm throwing it to the audience, is you've clearly said to us that you have to source a lot of things abroad because you don't have it here. Is that truly then the reflection on the pricing for the clothing, or do you feel like things are also being marked up because of the brand equity as well? And is it fair? Is it justified?
I would throw something real quick here and I'll give it to, because she's going to fire this thing. But this is what it is. Before the T-Pain era, when I go and eat amala in Alara it was 4,500 naira. Now it's 20,000 naira. Right? So I have a choice to downgrade or to maintain. But you see, that's okay. I bought a bucket of paint in January. It was 97,000 naira. I bought it today. It was 251,000 naira. Right? So why are you taking stabs at designers when everything is happening to everybody at the same time? Why do you pick on designers? It's because you have no respect for us. That's why. Because your rent has tripled, it's quadrupled. Your flight tickets overseas has quadrupled. Your food has quadrupled. Everything has quadrupled. Because these guys are just tailors down the road that there's no respect and regard for. They should remain cheap. That's what I have to say on the issue. Sarah, talk your own. Sandra, talk your own.
TUBO, just stick to TUBO. So first of all, I think that when it comes to the industry, there's a level of over-familiarity that comes with it. And it's also, I don't also blame the customers. I think it's also because of the way that we've also carried ourselves in the past and even down to the present. Sometimes even the presentation, it's just the same way when he started the conversation. He said, I'm not going to just do some tacky things and just sell you an African story and expect that you will buy it. We now have come to a point in the industry where people are dedicating so much time and resources into defining that craft, right? From the tailoring to even the storytelling, people now have a proper marketing budget. You cannot now expect that they're selling at a certain price. And I think that designers have also woken up to realize that Africa is not their only market. A lot of us are servicing the international market more than we're servicing the local market. 80% of my sales right now comes from the United States of America. It's a registered business in the US, in the UK. I pay taxes across all countries, whether FIRS likes it or not, right? So you don't expect me to still be pricing in Naira. If 80% of my sales comes from abroad, of course I'm going to be catering more to that market. For me, for example, my ready-to-wear now is partly made, 80% of the processes are pretty much made abroad. The only things that you pretty much find that are made here are maybe things that require some level of beadwork. So I make it, let's say for example, I make it in Bangladesh or whatever. I have a shipping company that ships from there, distributes to China, and then I have a fulfillment company in those places. And then I send 20% of those products to Lagos, and you're expecting me to now charge you in Naira. I'm not really understanding. The inflation rate is affecting everybody. It's not peculiar to...
But Mai made a valid point that why is fashion being singled out?
Exactly.
If you accept it, you complain online about a bag of rice and you still buy it. But then when it comes to fashion, you complain.
And there's also market segmentation. I say this all the time. If you can't afford Mai, there's another brand that will make you suits that look like mine, that are very affordable. But you're offended because you want to pretty much match your boss who wears Mai Atafo when you know that your paycheck cannot afford it.
That's what we call wanting champagne on a beer budget.
And it's a sense of entitlement, and it also comes from a sense of familiarity. I already know where TUBO lives. I see her all the time. So why does she, how dare her? I've had a client ask me before, how many children do you have that your clothes cost this expensive?
How many what?
You don't even have children. Why are your things so expensive?
What does that have to do with anything?
Because it's just the way that we behave. Even as a, so when I say it also stops at consumer behavior over familiarity. Yeah. So you know that TUBO is not married, she doesn't have a family, and therefore she should price according to what she should be able to use the profits from her business to solve. So Mike can charge more than me because he has a daughter.
I dare say a part of that is also mental slavery. So there's the general conception that like things that are foreign are better than things made in Nigeria. And this was actually intentional. So when Nigeria was being colonized by the British, they made an intentional effort to teach Nigerians that things that are made abroad are much better than what you make in Nigeria. And that mentality still exists today. So just because it's made in Nigeria, the average Nigerian, and you know, that's just the reality, the average Nigerian believes that it should be cheaper than what is made abroad. But it's mental slavery, and I'm happy that a lot of brands like us are challenging that status quo. And it's like, for me in particular, if my leather is good enough to make leather for the biggest fashion houses in the world, then why can't I make it here in Africa? And why can't I charge a good price to do that? you know? So
I think just to add on to that, it's something that's happened in another industry in this country, which I'll say is the music industry. The lack of appreciation for the talent here.
That's why they're not performing here anymore.
And when they are appreciated overseas and they start getting booked overseas, then you can't afford them home anymore. Because now there are Nigerian artists only by birth, not by their crafts anymore. And it's something like that that could happen, because tomorrow, if any fashion brand becomes a proper international brand with stores and recognition across the world, you can still expect them to sell cheap here, or even sell here at all, because there's no need to have a presence here if the market is not going to recognize it for what I am and give me the value that I deserve.
Yes. Hi, Anna. Are you still here with us? Okay, great. So my next question for you, as a... Yes, please go ahead. Yes, please go ahead.
I totally agree with the other speakers. I think there's this major change in mindset that has to take place with all the confidence nationally when you're looking at fashion. As someone who runs a fashion label and specifically moved back to Ethiopia, my country of origin, to start a fashion company that's going to be focused on sourcing and designing and working with local clients, I knew I was going to have challenges, but that was the challenge that I set for myself, because I knew the talent was here, I knew the raw material, I knew, and we had to invest the time, make the sacrifice, make the commitment to immediately work from the ground up. But yes, I would be 10 years later, we're still saying the same, very similar things, because some of the products that are made internationally or that are as labeled made anywhere else outside the country have much more value as opposed to the products that are made by hand, artisanal products that are done by hand that take so much more time. The value is not the same. And so there's a lot of mindset. And I think we are going in the right direction, but we've seen a lot of clients doing so much better by basing themselves internationally. And it's hard because when you base yourself locally, you have to think that the products are not as good, you're not sourcing anything from outside, you have the local products, which are not good quality. So yeah, so I just want to say that I agree, but I do see some positive change because the international fashion industry now is looking for us as sort of the last frontier fashion industry, that sort of artisanal things that are not perfectly made, in fact, things with imperfection, things that are made by hand, things that have a soul, that have a story. These are the things that are now resonating more and that are doing better internationally in fashion industry. So I think the one is a great opportunity for us to really kind of tap into that, because when you're doing work that's not automated, that's not machine operated all the time, and you're working with local artists, then it's that story that we have to really communicate and share.
Thank you, Anna. And then just to stick with you and ask you one last question before I get everyone's closing remarks. As a cultural advocate, how can we create stronger platforms to, promote African textiles and designs while still maintain cultural integrity internationally?
So once again, I think number one, we really have to work collectively. I think in Africa, the challenges that we have here in Ethiopia are very similar to the challenges that designing textile industry have, in West Africa, Nigeria, South Africa, in places that have the opportunity to travel in and engage with clients and customers. The challenges are very similar. So I think by working collectively and sort of really building the made in Africa, and I decided, what do we all source in Africa? My design aesthetic is sourcing from Africa. That's what I love doing. I love African textiles, I love working with local artists. Whatever our story may be, for us to be able to come and work collectively and build our industry together, instead of trying to do business individually as a continent, being able to see, and there have been a lot of initiatives, Pan-African initiatives and regional initiatives, such as fashion weeks and festivals that have brought a lot of designers together. But I do believe that, for example, you might have great talent in Ethiopia, but it could be great talent in other parts of Africa, there's great meetings in Southern Africa, so all these techniques that are available, which can allow us creators to come together and work and develop and talk into have.
Thank you very much, Anna. And I know we're out of time, but I'd like a closing remark from each person and for you to also answer my final question. TUBO, I'm going to start with you. So how can African designers position themselves to, compete on a global stage while still serving our local audience as well?
Okay, so I think the first thing is, again, education. Education and exposure plays a major role if you're trying to go international. The first time I went for an international fashion conference, it was a different ballgame entirely. I was beginning to see things that were being done by AI and all of that. It sort of opens your mind, right? You need to also be prepared for the sort of space that you're walking into. So you have to now start taking things like intellectual property as a big deal. When you say things like intellectual property here, people just think that it just stops as, oh, don't copy my design, or but you need to start we need to start trademarking. We need to start taking our industry seriously. As much as we feel like people don't take us seriously, we need to take ourselves even more seriously for them to be able to return that to us, right? Intellectual property, how are we trademarking our designs, and how are we also marketing our designs. Some people are actually not doing the proper campaigns that they're supposed to be doing, because you cannot do campaign on something that is not original in the first place. We need to start focusing on sustainability. So when I say sustainability, we already have this culture here where we like almost everything customized. It's like one piece for each occasion. How are we designing pieces that we can wear over and over again? The Ashwebi culture, you wear one dress one Saturday, that's the end. How are we trying to repurpose all of these things? It's about polluting the environment. As soon as you start to step into the international market, these are the things that people start to pay attention to. Even before you go into the international market, the generations that are after us, they're not particular about the design or whatever. They're thinking about what you're contributing to the environment. And that's how you can scale and be profitable out on the global scale. How you also, incorporating technology into the business that you're doing. And also there's certain things that are not within our power. I've stated some of them, like town planning. I'm going to repeat this thing about town planning again, because most of the people like me that are looking for a market outside, to be honest, if Nigeria was a big enough market, you would actually have enough resources and you would literally overwork yourself to be able to satisfy the Nigerian market. But when you travel, you see that the people who go to the shopping malls to buy fashion are not necessarily the locals. There are people who are coming in and out of the country. So that speaks to tourism. Now, you cannot attract tourism in terms of fashion if you're not organized. You travel and you already know these are the first places that I'm going to. And that even serves as part of your tourist activities, right? Now, imagine that we have that sort of thing here. It helps even rotate the funds around. Here, you're dealing with that over-familiarity with customers. It comes from a place where you're dealing with just 2% of the market, and all of us are struggling to get funds from those 2%. So they feel like they have so much power, and they can actually dictate what it is that you can and cannot do with your business, whether it's like alterations or this or that, and they're trying to literally squeeze you out, right? If we can fix all of that town planning and all of that, then it helps us with tourism, which then helps us bring in money into the country. So imagine like Dirty December is literally here, and you had a place where people could just go and shop and whatever, and they didn't need to come in with suitcases or anything, and people would just have a good time. It would really help. So that's even just coming from what the government can do for us, and also our attitude towards the people that work in the industry, and things that we can also do for ourselves. We need to start taking ourselves seriously. Marketing and intellectual property, I speak very highly of those two.
Thank you very much.
Can you repeat the question?
I should repeat the question. I was basically saying how African and Nigerian designers can position themselves for a global stage, but still serve their local audience as well. And then just a closing remark on everything we've discussed.
I mean, TUBO has said it all, really. But then I guess we need to take ourselves more seriously. So if you want to play in international markets, you have to be ready to play in international market. There are international standards. There's a way things are done. You have to learn how to do it, and you have to do it. At the end of the day, it's not rocket science. The guy doing it in Italy or the guy doing it in Turkey is just a guy like you. The only difference is that he's been educated. He knows what to do. So you need to learn that and do exactly what they do and try to out-compete them. So now we're not competing with other Nigerian artists or other Nigerian designers. We're competing globally, and that's what we're trying to do. You know, how to stay African, again, to Mai's point, why do we have to be African? You know, why is that a thing? Like, what is the difference between pants made in France and like denim made in America? They're both pants, it's just the raw material. So I guess in my industry, we use a lot of Nigerian leather, and that is a way that we stay true to Africa, because Nigerian leather is the best leather in the world, and for more than 500 years has been exported. You know, so I guess infusing African material can also help.
Thank you. Mai?
I think they've said what I want to say, to be honest. So for you to be able to play internationally, just make sure your craft is 100%, because no one's going to take a substandard product and say, because it's African, I'll wear it. And in terms of pushing the culture in this, I think authentically, if it comes to you and that's your standpoint, then by all means do it. Don't be gimmicky about it. Don't put Ankara and patch it on the end of the trouser and say, you know, I'm being African, you know. Don't be gimmicky about it. Do it because it comes to you and that's how you want to express yourself, and do it. And I think that if you do a good enough work from wherever you are in Nigeria, international will come to you. You don't have to go there. Have a website and put your stuff on it, and that's the end of the story. They will come to you. When I got featured on Beyonce.com during the whole Black is King thing, you know, I got Shekwanda, Lukwanda ordering from me. I don't know who they were. You know, they were on my website ordering things, we're sending off, and we're just getting paid.
Yes,
it was like that.
Seamless.
That was all it was, Beyonce.com. You know, but I was still in Nigeria, making my things in Nigeria and shipping to the US, and we shipped a lot in that period, and that's international. You know, if it calls for you to now go there physically, then do, but it's not. And when we say international, please, Africa is international. It's huge. My business in Ivory Coast is bigger than my business in America. You know, in terms of money, it's way bigger, and it's in Forex. You know, so we should stop thinking, when we think international, we're thinking
just Europe
that and that. You know, Africa, the money in Africa for fashion, and with the respect on top of it. You know, when I go to Ivory Coast, the mayor of Cocody wants to see me, the vice president wants to see me, and they're like, oh, please come again. I'm like, wow, with all humility, but it's a different conversation here. So, you know, go where you're respected and you're loved, and they still put money in your pocket. That's what I say. That's international.
I shared the same experience because I just had a pop-up in
Rwanda.
Congo, in Kinshasa, and I didn't believe it. People were walking around with dollars in their purses. They didn't need to go. There was no story. Like, there's too much money in Africa, and that also even speaks to another disadvantage. We're surrounded by so many African countries, and then nobody is actually teaching us French in our primary schools. So there's a lot to actually unpack when it comes to trading amongst Africa and even just doing business. And
newsflash, their money is better than our money right now. So they have more spending, to be honest. Like 3,000 CDs is 300,000 naira, right? One sefa is 2.8 naira. So they have more disposable income. Our money is literally toilet paper, to be honest, on the continent. So if you are selling to a fraction of people in Ghana, you are better than selling to a whole lot of people in Nigeria. Same thing for Ivory Coast, you know? And trust me, fashion cannot make the money better. That's beyond us.
And because Nigeria leads the fashion in Africa, it's actually easier to play in a lot of these markets, you know? So as a Nigerian business, it's much easier for you to play in South Africa than a South African business playing in Nigeria.
Yes, that's true.
So, you know.
Anna, would you like to make a comment and your closing remark, please?
No, I agree with everything that I think, you know, we really need to focus on upgrading our skills locally because, you know, our students approach and you get one chance or two chances and then you need to deliver. And if we have to market locally, you know, like Ethiopia, or our indigenous people, the continent, or, you know, a billion people, we have a lot to market, but we have to do the right marketing. We have to do the right marketing. We don't know each other. We don't know, you know, what's happening in our neighborhood. marketing, we all have to be very cautious of telling the beautiful story without results music.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Mai. Thank you, Winston. Thank you, TUBO. This has been a very insightful panel. Just a heads up, my timer has been on 0 for the last 20 minutes, but I wasn't trying to cut this conversation or make us stop. And it seems like the audience has already said having lunch. So for those of you that are not eating, if we have any questions, please let me know. If not, I'm just going to thank my panelists and allow you guys go eat as well.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, did we not enjoy this panel so much? I mean, it was incredible. Very animated, very authentic, very refreshing, and we've learned so much by listening to them. I think for me, I couldn't get past the bit about French, you know, because it's something that I have been preaching for so long. I'm an educator as well, and I teach French, I interpret French, I translate French, so on and so forth. And I've been saying it over and over again that we're surrounded by 16 Francophone countries in sub-Saharan Africa alone. So why would we continue to shoot ourselves in the foot with regards to business by allowing language to be a barrier? So that's definitely a food for thought. Somebody will need to start to go online and look for some good French classes to sign up to. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I see the applause is slow in coming because there's a lot of gobbling going on. Bon appetit. And so would allow you to eat. The DJ would supply us with some music. Nothing too overpowering, DJ. And then right after that, we'll go into our performance. Oh, we'll have a picture, please. Yes. And please, before you go, I hear Elder Kuma has a question. Let me just, could you help me with a microphone for him, please?
I just want to thank every young man, every young woman seated here. And I want you all to know that you are the future of this country. And I want to encourage you in whatever space that you find yourself. You must make a difference. Because we need to make a positive change in this nation. Don't give up. My little reaction is just on somebody that talked about making sales in dollars. We need to encourage our currency to grow. There's nothing wrong in making your sales in Naira, especially now that the currency has been floated. So you can do your payments in Naira is a way of strengthening our currency. If we dollarize this economy, it's not good for you, it's not good for me, but all is well. Congratulations, Ozinna, for making us proud, and all of you that came to support this programming, including the motivational or business speakers, all of you that have contributed, because they are motivating the young men and the young women to do better than they are doing. I want to thank you all for finding time, and in your busy schedule, you found time to come here. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless your endeavors. In the mighty name of Jesus.
Amen. Thank you so much for those encouraging words, Elder. Okay. Ozinna would love to take a picture with our panelists, if that's okay.